proper electricity. You must have proper water. You must have, in the context of a modern developing society, you must have a proper system of ICT, internet connection. Otherwise, you can't progress at the rate you want to progress. So that when we come and say to you that next year, we're going to start 6 road systems, 6 highway systems, my dear friends. It is not that we are getting caught up in mega things. It is because we are trying to keep faith with the pillar of investing in sound infrastructure in the environment, designed to achieve developed country status in that area well before the year 2020. And when we say we are going to spend $2 billion to bring fiber optics to the curb, TSTT program, fiber optics to the curb, which means you can connect into it and you have high-speed everything, high-speed internet, high-speed everything, making Trinidad and Tobago one of the top 10 countries in the world. When it is true, it is because Trinidad and Tobago, as a small country, has to export and has to remain competitive, and therefore we must be at the forefront of developments of this nature. And when we say we're going with desalination plants and we have a major water program going, it is because we know you must have that to have industry. You must have that for people to live. You must have that for people to enjoy the highest standard of living of which the country is available. And when we say we are going to build more electricity plants and so on, it is because you must have the electricity. There was a time, you may not know it, you know, when I used to go to a primary school, I used to do homework where we had no electricity at home. I used to operate a kerosene lamp. And my mother used to buy a lampshade. You know why I remember the lampshade? Guess what was written on the lampshade? That's right. I want to see whether you all knew it or not. Home sweet home, written on the lampshade. You understand? Home sweet home, written on the lampshade. And that is how I used to have to do homework. You think I'm any worse off for it? I'm not any worse off for it. But I am determined, like my parents were, that what they went through, I wouldn't have to go through. And what I went through, my children would not have to go through. You all are the children of the PNM. And today, we have moved away from home sweet home. It is electricity to every home, my dear friends. A better way of life for all our citizens. And the 5th pillar, governing effectively. Governing effectively. There must be effective systems of governance if the country is to be as efficient as we wish it to be. It has to be efficient because it has to compete with other countries that have a much longer history than ourselves, and countries that themselves are so efficient. And in a world that is globalized, in a world in which there are no borders, it is a question of the strong survive, and may the devil take the hindmost. Trinidad and Tobago has examined that, and we are able to swim in that murky water, and we swim in, and we are swimming very well indeed, governing effectively. And once we commit ourselves to the 5th pillar of effective governance, we are saying we have to review our governance systems at 4 levels. We have to review our governance systems at the level of local government. In other words, local government reform. We have to review our governance system at the national level. In other words, constitution reform. We have to review our governance systems at the regional level. In other words, Caribbean regional economic and political integration. And we have to review our governance systems at the international level. In other words, my dear friends, a review of the country's foreign policy and a review of the country's position for the reform of certain international agencies like the United Nations, like the World Bank, like the Inter-American Development Bank, like the Organization of American States, like the World Trade Organization and organizations of that nature. You following me? Am I above your heads or not? Tell me. You're singing as though you're not sure. My dear friends, what I am saying, therefore, is that these 4 areas are areas that are of such importance to us that the PNM has decided that we have to take our time and educate our citizens on these 4 areas. That is why we're in Woodford Square. That is why we're here. That is why we consider it necessary to reopen the University of Woodford Square. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, we very much appreciate the fact that you all are here and that you have come out in such large numbers to listen to education PNM style. May I say something else? It would have been nice if we could have depended on the media to educate you, but unfortunately we can't. I'm not casting aspersions on nobody, but I think I should say this to the media. The responsibility of the media is to educate and inform. That's all I say. And I long for the day. And I long for the day, my dear friends, when I could truthfully say that the media in this country is living up to that responsibility. I leave it there. So tonight, we want to spend a few minutes on local government reform. Okay? Local government reform. I must tell you, my dear friends, that reform of the local government system does not take place in isolation. It is part, tasting like nectar. Reform of the local government system is part of the overall reform of the public service. So that there are things we are doing in public service reform that impact on local government reform. And therefore, any discussion on local government reform has of necessity to take into account some of the things that we are doing in relation to reform of the public service. You understand that? Okay, my dear friends, when you're looking at reform of local government, one of the first things you have to take into account is the size of our population. The population of Trinidad and Tobago is 1.3 million people. 1.3 million. You notice the size of the population of the City of London? The City of London has a population of 7.5 million people. In other words, 6 times the population of the whole of Trinidad and Tobago. The City of London has a population 6 times the size of the population of Trinidad and Tobago. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, since our objective is efficiency and the most efficient system we could put in place, we have to recognize that there are certain approaches that are going to be efficient in a large society that are not as efficient in a smaller one. Local government on the whole. You have local government in London with 7.5 million people. You have local government in Trinidad and Tobago with 1.3 million. Do you know that in Antigua and Barbuda with 87,000 people, you have no local government? In St. Kitts and Nevis, 51,000 people, no local government. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, 100,000 people, no local government. St. Lucia, 170,000 people, no local government. You know why? Because they believe that the society is too small to have so many layers of governance. It becomes very inefficient. If efficiency is what you're looking for, then the size of your population is an important consideration in this matter. In Dominica, 71,000 people, no local government. In Grenada, 109,000 people, no local government. In Barbados, 275,000 people, no local government. But in the Bahamas, with 338,000 people, there is local government. Guess why? It is so in the Bahamas and not in other countries in the region of a similar or smaller size, because the Bahamas comprises 700 different islands. They are separated from each other by sea, and therefore governance, they have found that the most efficient system of governance is a system in which you have an administration and an administrative arrangement in each island that has a significant population. In the Bahamas, there are 26 of them. You understand what I'm saying? So when you're looking at local government, there are 2 factors you must take into account. One is the size, and the other is the geography. The size and the geography. So Trinidad and Tobago has decided that because of our size,